get a recording, share my screen. Oh, and also for anyone who is significantly behind and knows they're not really going to be going for a black belt, I've checked you in now in the sidebar there. So if you want to go on and complete the other assignments right now, that's fine. All righty, so let's get back to it. So earlier today, we had a couple components that we were working in. So I'll just close the sidebar here because we're not really going to need that for anything. And now we want to make this a little bit more interesting because the only thing that we're really doing is we're just welcoming a new person who comes in, and then we're returning this callback function if this component ever unmounts. So that's not so interesting. So let's pretend like we were going to have some sort of an auction here where people could bid on something. So I'm going to go back into my server.js, and in addition to this connected clients, let's just establish a couple of other variables here. So we'll say let price equal 5. Okay. And then we'll have something else too. We'll say const bids equals this empty array. Okay, so we're saying the starting price is going to be 5, and currently there are no bids on this item. Okay, what we want to do when a person first connects, let's pass them all of this information, right? Because they're probably going to want their screen to show whatever the current price is and what all the bids were that have been placed already. So instead of just passing in thanks for coming, let's change that into an object which has price in it and bids. Okay, hang on a second. Why are we using const for the bid array? Good question. Is this bid array ever going to change? I mean, am I going to reassign it to something at some point later? Won't we be pushing into it? Yeah. So that's kind of the tricky thing about const, is that sometimes people think, okay, well, if I'm using const, that means that I truly cannot do anything to it. Now, I can still push into this array, but I cannot reassign it. If I were later on in my code to say bids equals 5, then I would get an error, right? Because I'm actually reassigning it to something else. In this case, by pushing into it, it's still the same array, okay? It has to be array all the way, okay? Was that an answer, Prativa, or a question? I just want to make sure. That was an answer? Okay, cool. All right, let me get rid of this line then. She's rhyming on us, yeah. So here I'm emitting this event, again called welcome, but this time we're including this object here that has the price and this bids array. Cool. So let's go back to our app.js. And inside here, I want to create some state for this. So I'll say const price set price equals use state. We'll just say 0 initially. We know that's probably not true, but we can't really update it until this welcome event has happened, right? Okay, and then I'll say const bids and set bids is going to be use state against an empty array. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to establish some state for the user to actually try to bid. So we want to have an input for them where they can say, hey, I want to bid $10 or whatever, so that they can bump up the price. So let's say current, or we'll say input val set input val use state. Maybe we'll pass in 0 for that initially, right? Okay, and then let's use this down here. So we'll say, do a little p tag here. We'll say current bid, and here I'm going to put price. And then we could also iterate through all the bids that we have, right? So I can do, we'll just say here, bids. I'll create a little unordered list. And then inside here, I'm just going to map through all of these bids that I'm going to have in this array, right? So we'll go bids.map. Okay, and for each bid, I'm just going to keep it simple and actually just output that number. Nothing crazy here. So we'll do an li item. And then I also need the, I'm going to need one of those unique keys, right? So because of that, dang it. I probably want to have this index, right? That looks pretty good, right? So now what we want to do is, instead of console.logging when we get this welcome event, what we want to do is we want to set the price according to whatever the price of that object was. And then we also want to set the bids, which is this bids array that we just got back from the server, right? So let's change this. I'm going to create a callback function that takes some data. And what we're going to do is we're going to set price based on whatever the data.price was. And then we'll set bids based on the data.bids. Okay? Does that look pretty good to you guys? So let me open this up in the browser. New window here. Localhost 3000. Okay, notice how that when the screen first popped up, it was like, whoa, I think that the current price is 0, but then it changed right away. So that was us. We did that inside of our use effect. Okay. And I have no bids currently, so let's actually get this input working so that we can create some bids. So I'll go down here. I'll create a form. Okay. Inside the form, I'm going to have just an input. Keep it nice and simple. Okay, I want the type to be a number. And then I want the value to be whatever that input value is, right? We're storing that in state right now. Okay, what else do I need for the input? You guys can chime in here. A handler, right? We need to actually handle changes. And I'll drop a little submit button down here so that we have it. Oops. Place bid. Okay, so we'll say on change. I'm going to get in an event. And I'm going to set input val to be e.target.value, but I'm also going to put a plus in front of this. Does anybody know why?
Convert a string to
Yeah, I want to make sure that we keep it a number type, right? Otherwise, the input that they've put in there would be of a string type. Okay, so let's save that here. Let's make sure it looks the way that we want. All right, now we've got our input val is 0. We can maybe fix this a little bit, make this a little bit better. So inside this here, in addition to setting the price and the bids, maybe I want to set my input value to price plus 1 or something like that, right? So set input val to data.price. Or do we want to do like an increment of 5? It's up to you guys. Yeah. All right, that's cool. So let's see what we're getting over here. Okay, cool. So when it first loads up, we know the current price is 5, and now we're saying, hey, we want to bid 10. Okay, so what else are we going to need? We have this form. We're going to need some sort of a submit handler, right? So let's create that. Handle submit. That's going to take in what? Everybody at once. An event. Uh-oh, somebody said callback. Are you serious, Prativa? Or are you just playing with me? You're playing with me, right? I know you are. All right, so we're taking an event. We want to prevent the default, right? Default. Okay, cool. And then what do you guys think that we want to do now? So we've prevented the default. We have a value in our input. What should we do? Normally we would make an Axios request, right? Set bid. It's a little problematic because if I just set bid, that means that it's only going to change the bid for this one client, right? It won't change it for all of them. I need to change it for everyone because make a copy. So let's do this. How about this? Let's emit an event back to the server so that we tell the server, hey, we've now outbid whatever was on there currently. The server is then going to be in charge of letting all of the clients know that this has happened. Okay? Yeah, exactly. All right. So, all right. So let's say socket.emit, and then we'll call this event new bid. And then I want to pass some data along to it, right? Where am I going to get that data from? From the input val, right? But I want to add in some small piece of logic here. What if somebody tries to underbid, or what if they don't bid higher than the current price? Do I want to even let them make that bid? Yeah, that would be pretty lame, right? Like underbid what the current price was. So I'm just going to say if input val is less than or equal to price, return. Okay, that just takes us out of the function right away, and we're not actually emitting an event to the server. Make sense? Okay, so let's come down here and let's actually drop that in there on submit, handle submit. Okay, so that's good. Now that I've got this event that is potentially going to be emitted from the front end, what do you guys think I need to do next, if you had to guess? Re-render. Okay. Set bid. All right. Any other guesses? Set state. Promise. Promise. Nice. When all else fails, just say promise, right? Okay. So let's think of this as sort of like a game. Maybe we're playing a game of tennis. Okay, the ball kind of goes from one side of the court to the other. So I'm doing something here on the front end. I'm now sending that ball into, to the server, right? We're now sending that ball to the server. The server is going to need to do something about this. So let's go back to our server. And here is where I can attach listeners for events that the client is sending me. So I can come up here and I can say socket.on new bid. Okay, and the data that I'm going to get is going to be this. I'll just call it new bid here. Can you guys guess what I'm going to do with that new bid? Set bid. Hey, we're on the back end right now. We can't just set bid, right? Good guess though, Aya. Send it to front end. Okay, yeah, ultimately we'll need to do that, but also I want to update it up here, right? Because I've got the price right here and the bids. Let's update these two things before we do anything. Increment it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to reassign price to that new bid, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. And then the other thing is I want to push this new bid into this bids array so that I can see sort of like the history of all of the bids that have been placed. So I'll say bids.push new bid. Okay, so what we've done right now is we've just updated these two things, but do all of the clients know that these things have changed yet? Not yet, right? So we need to go and alert them to that fact. Okay, so now what we'll do is we are going to emit an event to all of our clients, all of our connected clients right now. And the way that I can do that is I can say io.emit. Okay, so before when we were saying socket.emit, that meant that we were simply sending an event back to that one socket. In this case, we want to emit to every single socket that's connected to us. Let's alert everyone that the current price has changed. Okay. So I will create a name for this event. We'll call it new price, or we could say price updated. And then the data that I want to pass along to that is just simply going to be the current price, right? I'm going to tell everybody the price has just been updated. All right, any questions about this? All right, so where do you guys think we need to go now? So at this point, we've received an event on the server. I've now emitted an event to all the clients. So logically, where do we need to go next? Client, exactly. We need to go back to the front end and now listen for our price updated event. Okay, so let's go inside here. And inside here is where we were adding all of our event handlers, right? Or our event listeners, I should say. So we'll say socket.on, and then the event that we're listening for is now called price updated. Okay. And then what do we need to pass as the second argument here? Callback function, very well, very good. All right, so we're going to get this new bid, and I'm going to do a couple things with that, right? I want to change the price. Potentially, I want to change the input value so that it's like higher than this new price. And then also I'm going to want to update my bids array, right? So that it has that new bid in it. So let's do these different things. Let's say set input val, and we'll say input val, wait, not input val, it's actually going to be new price, right? Plus 5, new bid. Okay, and then the other thing I want to do is I want to say set price to be the new bid. And then finally, I want to update this bids array, right? Okay, so we'll do something like set bids. And then in here, we're going to spread across bids and then just add the new one at the end, right? Okay, any questions on this? 18 to 22? Yes, you have a question? Okay, ask away. Turn on your mic. Oh, how does it know? All right. How does it know where to extract the new bid? Well, the new bid is actually coming as part of that packet of information that the event emitted, right? The emitted event that we passed from our server here has this price in it. So then our callback is going to receive that price right here. Okay, cool. All right, so let's give this a whirl. Let's see if we can actually bid in here. So if I place a bid, okay, I've got that. That's working well. Let's place a bid for 15. Uh-oh. Did you guys see what went wrong? This was right. This is correct. But look at my why are there 15 bids not displaying? Yeah, exactly. So this is the problem, is that here we've got this array that only has one bid in it, but I've already placed 2. What the heck? No. No, there's a big gotcha here, and I think this was the question that maybe they were alluding to in the platform. You know, like the thing that nobody could find the answer to or something like that. Okay. So let's talk about what's going on. So inside of our use effect, when we establish this socket.on call, we've now called a function, right? We've called a function inside of another function. Now, inside here, we're doing set bids based on this bids variable here. But what's happened is this whole thing has created something called a closure. It has sort of enclosed all of our, every time we invoke a function, we're creating a new execution context. And that execution context is being held on to so that right here, when I'm mapping across when I'm trying to spread across those bids, I'm actually spreading across the initial bids, this initial empty array. Because we're stuck inside of this closure. Okay? There was a closure created when this useEffect function was first run. And that's what's causing us the problem. Lucky for us, there's a very easy fix for it. So rather than passing this to our set bids, can you guys guess what I could pass to set bids instead? Data.bids. Well, inside here, I have no access to data, right? Yeah, the only thing that I really have access to in this function is new bid, in addition to anything else that was already available to me. But remember the workaround that we did up here so that we didn't create multiple sockets? We passed in a callback function. Here it comes again. We're going to pass in another callback function. Our callback function will take all the current bids, and then I can spread across those instead. Okay, so inside this callback function, I now have access to whatever the current bids are, and this won't have the same problem that we had before. Where did we define current bids? Well, we defined it right here as the parameter to our callback function. Remember, it's a callback function, so we're not going to be invoking it directly. React will be invoking that on our behalf. Callback is everywhere. Yeah, aren't they? They keep coming. All right, so this should allow us to handle that issue. Let's go back here. Now we're seeing both bids, right? And if I place a new one, sweet. And then if I were to open underbid, yeah, let's try that. So if I do like 4, it's just not doing anything because I returned out of that function. Yeah. All right. Now if I open up a incognito window here and go to that same place, great. So I'm seeing the current price and I'm seeing all the historic bids. And I could place one here and then go back to my other one. And now I'm seeing that as well, right? So everything is nice and in sync. Let's look back at the code real quick. So this was the huge gotcha there, which is that if you have something inside of an array, you may end up with some sort of stale state. Our stale state was the original empty array that we had right there. So we were spreading across that empty array instead of spreading across all of the current bids. Yeah, Albert, that it's a pretty big gotcha, and in fact, it threw us for a little bit of a loop when we first saw it. So don't feel bad about that. Yeah. All right. Couple other things that I want to talk about real briefly. This isn't really a big deal, but we've done a couple types of emits from the back end. We did a socket.emit, and then we also did an io.emit. So the io.emit, of course, was going to all of the connected clients. There's one other kind of emit that I could do, which is I could send in an event to all of the clients except for this particular socket. Okay. So for instance, let's just say I wanted to send I wanted to kind of alert all of the other clients when somebody new just arrived. Inside here, I can do socket broadcast.emit. And what this is going to do is it's going to send and it's going to emit an event to all of the sockets except for this one. Okay. So I'm just going to say I'm going to emit a new user joined. Okay. I don't know that we need to really send anything along with that. Let's just leave it as is. So we're going to do a broadcast message, and then I'm going to listen for it here on the front end as well. So I can say socket on new user joined, create a quick callback function, new user joined, like that. Did I have an exclamation point? Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, you got to keep aware of these things, otherwise your events are not going to work as you expect. Okay, so if I go back here, let's take a look in our console. Notice how everything reset. Does anybody know why this reset? Yeah, so the refresh that took place was on the server. So because we're using NodeMon, every time we save it, it's resetting the price back to 5. Okay, and then if I go back to my incognito here, let me just refresh this. New user joined. So the new user who joined was the one in that incognito window. And if I go back to the incognito window, you see that that person didn't get the new user joined, right? Because the broadcast message goes to everyone but him or her. Is it complicated to tie in sockets with manipulating data in our DB? Not really. Shouldn't be, because if you have a model or something, I mean, let's just look at what we have in our server going on, right? Inside our server, what if I needed to respond to something? If I needed to go grab a product from the database or whatever? Not hard, right? I could just go product.findById or whatever, go retrieve whatever I needed to do, and then in my .then I can go ahead and emit some kind of event if I need to. Make sense? Yeah, not too bad. So, okay, structure of, yeah, because I just didn't want to like start creating a model and getting our, yeah, exactly, our mongoose going and stuff like that. So let's say that we were listening for this new bid here, and then inside the new bid, I wanted to go update something. Well, maybe I could do product.findById and update. So presumably, I would need to know what the product ID was. So probably that would be included along with the submit, right? Or with the event, I should say. So we'll just drop in the ID. We'll update it in some way. So maybe what I want to do is I want to say price is going to be new bid. Third argument would probably be new true. Run validators so that we make sure that nothing funky is going on. And then down here in my .then, you know, if that goes well, then what I can do is I can do, what was I doing? I was broadcasting to everyone, right? So I was doing io.emit, something like that. Does that pretty much make sense, how I'm handling that? Yeah. Okay. Cool, let me just comment this out. All right, let's talk through this a little bit. So we got a couple new things here. Francis, take us through these lines, please.
Um, okay, so we have so whenever for line 20, whenever another user joins, it basically like logs it in the console, right? That's what the broadcast does.
Well, no, it's not so much that it's logging in the console. It's sending an event to all of the
Mhm.
clients except for this one right here, the socket that we have
Oh,
access to on line 14.
oh, okay. And then for line 22, it we call the function emit,
Mhm.
and we pass in welcome, which was from another, I forgot where it was from earlier.
Well, yeah,
And
so
then
the welcome string that we supplied here, this is
mhm.
us just naming the event. We're saying we want
Oh, okay.
to emit an event called welcome. We just made that.
Yeah. But isn't that from like another from uh the lecture today? We also
Yeah,
had
yeah.
another.
Actually, we had this same event. It's just before we were passing something different as the data. So
I
I
see.
changed this right here.
Oh, okay. And it's just like passing in this the price and the bids.
Yeah, so we've created a new object. That's what these curly braces are, right? And then inside that object, we have the price and this bids array.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. Solid. Let's go here to socket.on Prativa. Actually, let me just take this out so that we have less to look at. Okay. So just this part, the new bid part.
Whenever we get the event new bid, we uh, okay. Whenever we get the new bid, then what we want to do is set our reassign our price and push that bid value to our array that we have.
Mhm.
So what socket.on is doing is taking the event new bid, and whenever we have that, we have the callback function there, which gets the new bid and do the things that we want to do for us, like reassigning the price and pushing the value to the array bids. And what io.emit is doing is um, every it is it is create is it that we are creating event and sending the price?
Yeah, well, we're emitting an event, but by us saying io.emit, that means that we're emitting it to all of the connected sockets.
Okay.
Okay, so including this one, we're emitting that to everyone.
Okay.
And then the data that we're passing along with that is just the
The
price,
price.
whatever the updated price was. Okay.
Okay.
All right, good. We did disconnect earlier today, so I won't do that again. Back to our app.js here. Let's talk about this up in here. These were new. Aya, take us through this.
You're creating a state for price, the price and set price, and the initial state is set to 0. Then on line 8, you're setting a state for bids, and then the initial state is an empty array. And then for line 9, you're creating a state for input val, and the initial state is 0.
Okay, looks good. All right, let's keep going. Our welcome changed a little bit. Albert, take us through this one.
Socket.on, pretty much event listener. For
Yes.
the event welcome to be sent in from the socket. Callback function, the data that we get, we're naming it data, and we're setting the price, bids, and the input value based on the data that we got. For line 15, we're actually incrementing the price by 5 because we want that input value to be higher than the bid or the current bid.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to encourage people to keep bidding higher, right?
Oh.
Good. All right. Let's see, who have I not called? Oh, Lawrence, you're up. Price updated for you. Actually, you want to do just do both of these? Shouldn't be too bad.
Okay, so okay, so on to the events, we call it price updated, and it's a callback function. We pass in a new bit, and whenever it's called, we're gonna set our input to be the new bit plus 5,
Mhm.
and we set the price to be the new bit. We set a bit. We have another callback function, and we're gonna pass in the current bit, and we keep pretty much we push the new bit to the exist array.
Yeah, so we're creating a new array and then we're spreading across everything that was in the current array and just adding this new one to the end of it.
Or create a new array. Okay, yeah.
Good?
And then we have another event listener called new user joined,
Mhm.
and it's a callback function. So we're gonna return this new user joined word to whatever the socket is. It will show up there.
Actually, we're returning undefined, aren't we? There's no explicit return inside that callback function.
Undefined.
Yeah, so it's actually returning undefined. We're just doing console.log. Because you were saying we're returning the string. We're actually not returning anything from this function if you see, right? All we're doing is we're doing that console log. That's it. So anytime we don't explicitly return something from a function, it's going to be returning undefined.
Return undefined.
Which is fine. We didn't need the function to return anything, so that's okay. Just something to be aware of. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Francis, let's do handle submit, and then I think we'll be done.
Okay, so we just have the submit handler, takes in an event, and then of course as usual, we do our if event dot prevent default to keep it from re-rendering. And then we have a conditional, which is if whatever the user put in the field, if it's less than what the current, or basically if they underbid, it just won't let them submit it.
Yeah, or if it was equal to. So if what they have in there is the same as the price, then we don't want to call that a new bid.
Oh yeah, that has an equal. My bad.
That's okay.
And then after that, we just call this function emit again, and we which takes in the new bid and also the input from that the field.
Yeah, so this new bid is just a string. This is us calling the event new bid.
Mhm.
And then the input value is what do we want to pass along to the server? So the server
Okay.
knows this is our new bid, right?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Albert's got a question. What's on your mind, Albert?
If you go back to line 21, when we're spreading the current bids,
Uh-huh.
so if I remember correctly, you said when we spread, it creates a shallow copy. So my question was regards to if there was like nested arrays or nested objects, would it copy exactly the same, or would it be just like one level?
Yeah, what would happen is they would be the actual objects that were inside the array.
Okay, so an exact copy.
An
in this
exact,
case.
yeah, not so much. I don't want to say an exact copy. They would be the actual objects. They're identical.
What's the distinction?
Well, the distinction is you can have an object that has the same key value pairs in it versus having the exact same object, which is like treated as the same thing in JavaScript's memory.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so in the second example, like if you updated one, then the other one would change as well. If
Yeah,
it was,
so if we had a bunch of objects in here, for instance, the objects themselves would be the same objects. That's what the shallow copy does. It just takes those original objects and puts them into this new array.
Yeah, okay. I think I know what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so hopefully we can kind of visualize how this whole communication works. It's not so different than what you guys were doing in the sense that we've got the client-server interaction. The main difference here is that the server can initiate contact to the clients, right? So think of this as just, like I said, a tennis game where a person's hitting the ball to the other side of the court. Now the server has the information. It now needs to hit the ball to the other side so that all the clients have updated information about what's going on. All right, let's have some thumbs on this. I can't see yours. Oh, there, I see yours, Lawrence. Cool. Nice. Albert, where was your thumb? I didn't see you on screen. It's up, good, okay. This is easier than login reg. Yeah, I think it kind of was, right? Certainly much less involved. It's definitely less confusing. Yeah, agreed. This for my black belt requirement, please. Okay. I actually got it. Hey, fantastic. Nice. Okay. Seems like everyone feels pretty good about this, which for me, you always get it, which for me is like very, you know, it's a very good thing when you guys feel like you're getting it, not login reg. Yeah, login reg had a lot of steps to it, didn't it? Yeah. All right. LOL, same. Lots of moving parts. Yep. All right, let me stop the share, stop the recording.